Hey guys, thanks for coming. Hey, real quick before I get started, let me send a quick shout out to our girls volleyball team. What a big win for those ladies this weekend. Very proud of those guys, or those ladies, I should say. Big win, conference win, and hopefully we can take some of their momentum and use it this week. But hey, real quick, let me start by saying we've had a great week leading up to this point. I do believe it came in a much needed time, although a lot of times you don't want to go into an open gate maybe following a loss, but considering the circumstances, thought it came in a good time. Midway point of the season, when you consider fall camp. Was able to use it in a lot of positive ways. One, mainly to get some guys healthy, get those guys healed up. I'll talk a little more about that in a little bit, namely, talking about Jamal Robinson. Then some other guys that were sort of ailing a little bit. We've been able to get those guys ready to go. Was able to focus on some academics, get caught up on some schoolwork, clean up some things offensively, defensively, kicking game wise, and also work on some things that we wanted to do on both sides of the ball to tweak what we're doing a little bit to try to give ourselves a little better of a chance to be successful. So very productive week. Now we're back in the game week, and I know our players are extremely excited. Tempo at practice last night was one of our best Sunday practices yet. Kids are very determined, very focused of turning this thing around, and we've been talking about with our team, within ourselves, of a new season, which we're fortunate enough not to have played any conference games to this point. Some teams have already played conference games. Couldn't say what we say when we say it is in some ways for us a new season, because we're entering conference season 0-0 with 8 regular season games left. So got a great perspective in taking it one game at a time, and I have no doubt that we're going to have another great week of preparation leading up to this week as we get ready for a very talented Georgia State team. Before talking about Georgia State, Jamal Robinson did practice last night, the entire practice. Went through team drills, went through Pasquelli. I thought he looked really, really good. I didn't think he dropped off very much at all. I thought he looked pretty natural out there. Didn't seem to be too concerned about the knee, and ran around with confidence, planted with confidence, and so I thought that was a huge plus. The other guys, Marquise White, some other guys that were a little banged up, Jake Mulberry, Marquise White, Justin Hamilton, some of the guys that have been a little bit banged up, Alonzo Harris, all looked a lot faster, looked way more productive than they have been in the last few weeks. I think that'll only be a plus as we move forward from here. Now, talking about Georgia State. Georgia State comes to Lafayette this weekend 1-3. They have been very competitive. They took an Air Force team deep into the game, very competitive against Air Force, a team that beat Boise this past weekend, and so they played them really well. They're also up 14-0 in the third quarter against the Washington Huskies, and so they have been competitive. They lost a very close game on a last-minute field goal against New Mexico State, and so they have been competitive. They've had some success. They've got a quarterback that gives them a chance to be successful on the field. He's got a quick release. He's a very accurate passer. He manages the game extremely well, and I think he's got a stable full of very capable, very good wideouts that can get open and catch the ball. I think they do a nice job. They've had some injuries at running back, but just like we have, that's always an opportunity for somebody else to step up. And they have the ability, though, to rely on the passing game even more with the success that they've had and with a quarterback like they have. It'll be a challenge for us this Saturday. Defensively, they're a 3-4 football team that I think plays extremely hard. I think Trent Miles does an exceptional job. I think he's an outstanding coach. He was very successful at Indiana State, and now he's building a program there at Georgia State, putting his own stamp on that program. And he's starting that program, obviously, basically from scratch when he took over from Coach Curry a few years ago. And you can already see the improvement in a short period of time. They're going to win some games this year. They're going to be, they're a much better football team. And so it's going to be a challenge for us, especially since we have not played as well as we'd have liked in the last 3 games. But as we talked last night, we really feel like that we're due. We feel like that our best football is still ahead of us. And after watching games this weekend and getting to see some other teams play, I think it assured me more than anything that we're not as far off as we may have thought we were. And so we're excited to get back to practice tomorrow. Players are off today, coaches are game planning, so we're excited about getting back Cajun Field this weekend. I expect a full house. I don't think we would have anything less. Our fans are going to be there because they're just as hungry as we are. And so it's going to be an exciting atmosphere. They've already said it's supposed to be absolutely perfect weather, about 60 at kickoff, and clear skies. It will be a great night at Cajun Field for everybody to get out and enjoy the day Saturday, and hopefully see a much improved and see the Cajun team they are accustomed to seeing on Saturday. So with that, any questions?
Is Arbuckle the big difference in them last year to this year?
I think so. I think, last year, I think we saw two quarterbacks last year. They've got some consistency with Arbuckle, and he, like I said, he does a great job of spreading the ball around, taking what they give him. He's got a very quick release, very accurate passer, does a good job.
So you were looking for leaders early on in the season. Off week, give a chance for some leaders to step up?
A little bit, and that's, boy, I tell you what, this day and time, I don't know if, leadership is, to find that great leader, they seem to be few and further between. There are always some guys that are leaders that do some things, but we're still waiting for that one guy, maybe just to grab the whole team by the horns. We've got some guys that really started to show that ability this week, especially guys that had enough, that know we're better than what we showed. And when I think of leadership, I think about Larry Pettis. He's a guy to me that's starting to really show his leadership potential, stepping up and saying, hey guys, this is not the way we play. This is what I expect. And so that's been a huge plus, seeing that from him. But still would like to see more. That's the thing that as much as we've improved, I think, in a week, and I think hopefully we'll show that, still think there's room for improvement in the leadership category. That is really hard to teach these days. And hopefully, though, that will come on. I could say that probably had a lot to do with maybe being 1 and 3 at that point. Kids are playing hard. Kids are preparing hard. But we've got to have that one leader that really steps up. And we've got some guys that are leading, but we need a few more.
To that point, Tyron Alexander was just in here saying he thought the last few weeks the passion has been missing compared to seasons past. Why do you think that is, and what can you do beyond some leadership to get it back?
Yeah, we talked about that yesterday, and I read him a quote, that passion, energy, those things are talents. Playing with passion, playing hard, that's a talent. That's something that you can teach, believe it or not. I read a little quote from Doc Rivers about that. And so, we have been a very passionate team in the last 3 years, played awfully hard. And then, you take a team that came back this year, like I said, I think it had a lot to do with a lot of expectations that may have got their expectations preceded getting the work done one day at a time. And don't know if maybe some of that had to do with it. Thought that maybe we've arrived for some odd reason, and they didn't have to play with that type of effort and passion, because that effort and passion we played with was the reason we were 9-4 3 straight seasons. Not because necessarily we had the best team. I felt like because we played harder than a lot of people. We played smarter. We took care of the football. And this past week in practice, if I could say anything that I felt like was back, was that passion, that ability, and I think they started having a little more fun in practice. I even cut practice back a little bit. You'd think I would extend practice about 2 hours, but I even cut practice back a little bit. And I think they had a little fun at practice and flew around, and you could see that stinger out there last night. And I think that stinger is leading to that passion too, because they really are passionate about showing everybody how good a football team they are.
Just before you came in, the guys were talking to me about, we feel like we're all we got right now. We're all we got. Can you talk a little bit about, the guys kind of coming together, grabbing on that rope as a group?
And I read another quote. I'm a quote guy, as you probably have heard. Johnny Cash said that the hammer, you got to first see the fire before it sees the nail. And And I think, you know, right now, they're realizing it takes hard work. Sometimes you go through adversity, you get put in the fire. You've got to go through the fire and get hardened. You've got to test your mettle before you go out and compete against the male or somebody else. And I think they're starting to realize that. And but as far as circling the wagons, anytime you face with adversity, a lot of times you want to circle the wagons because everybody's counting you out. Everybody's pulling either against you. Half the people are going to show up to see us do good, and half the people are going to show up to see if we're not any better. And so they feel like that, hey, they got a little chip on their shoulder again, which is great. I wish I could have got that chip on their shoulder about 3 weeks ago, and we might not be here at this moment. But nevertheless, I think they're anxious to show them better.
The stat of the day seems to be last in the nation in turnovers gained. I know you guys drilled a lot in practice and all that, and you've addressed it before, but going back to the passion thing, can that make the difference, or what? would it
Playing harder covers up mistakes. Playing harder creates things, and I think so. And but nevertheless, though, you know, we've ripped some balls out. You got to get some breaks. You can rip out 30 balls, but if the other team recovers all 30, then you have no turnovers. And we've ripped out balls and had balls on the ground. We just have not bounced our way, and we hadn't gotten on them. That's a little bit to do with it. But also, you know, playing harder, creating more turnovers, maybe more pressure, you know, whatever we can do to create turnovers, more people to the ball. We've got to create more turnovers. And, you know, you look at Boise this past week, you know, they had 7 in one game. And so, you know, if we'd have called 7 up in Boise, we might have had a shot at that football game. But we didn't cause any. And so that's the whole key, is creating turnovers, winning the turnover battle. And if we win the turnover battle, we'll have a chance to win the football game.
Coach Tyron talked about just finding a way to, because Arbuckle was a rhythm passer. You know, we're watching some of the stuff that he did against Washington. You know, he obviously trying to find ways to break his rhythm, creating turnovers, as you said. What are those things? How important are those things?
Well, anytime you've got a really good quarterback that is, you know, like I said, a 3-step drop or a gun quarterback that likes getting the ball out, you got to do some things to disrupt him. And, you know, we've got to make sure we try to get some pressure on him, get him out of the pocket. And you don't want to have to do it with bringing everybody an awful lot or pressure all the time, where you leave your guys on the islands where all they got to do is make one guy miss and the band plays. But you got to pick and choose your moments. And you got to be good tacklers, and then when we do get there, we got to get there. We got to make him get the ball out before he's ready, and we've got to do a good job of covering down those wideouts, because, you know, they're going to be 4 and 5 wide, and we've got to do a great job in the secondary and at the linebacker level with their underneath coverage.
Is this time, do you start looking at the conference standings this time of year?
I like watching the matchups. You know, always look at the head-to-head matchups and the games that, you know, once we've played a few teams, common opponents and matchups, things like that. But there's only one team I'm concerned about, and that's us. And that's all we can control, is what we can control. But it's interesting each week to see some of the matchups and then some of the common opponent matchups that we'll have in the future weeks.
Where do things stand on that, thinking about moving T-Pat to safety?
We're still a little bit undecided right now. Right now, it's probably going to be at safety. That's where we're leaning right now. We worked a little bit of safety last night.
And go with Watson.
More than likely, not settlement yet.
Last couple of weeks with Jamal out, you've had to have players go into other roles. How much does it simplify things for you, game prep, game planning, to have Jamal back and players in their original roles?
That helps, just for the fact we know what we like to do when Jamal's in the game, and he's a guy that commands a little bit of respect. He can take the top off the coverage, he can open up the underneath routes, and he even helps you open up the run game. When the people aren't respecting the deep ball or aren't respecting the passing game, obviously they're going to be a lot heavier on the run, which they was able to do at Boise. And but you know, he's a guy that you've got to know where the kid is, and he's a talented player. And we've got to also make sure he gets some opportunities to help this team. When he gets the ball in his hands, he typically does good things with it.
Was he back out practicing in normal jersey, or is he wearing the black?
He was, I think he was in black, but he was in full dress.
Okay.
He had the black on just so nobody would run into him.
Right.
Just to be aware of it.
Will you have anybody in black this week, or are they all?
Jamal may go in, he'll probably be in an orange or black tomorrow based on what the trainers put him in, just so everybody's aware of where he is. We don't have somebody accidentally running into him, and doing something freakish until he gets a little more confident. But, you know, he's gonna practice tomorrow in full pads like everybody else and go through the entire practice.
So, Trey's fine for starting, you didn't mention him?
Yeah, not for sure on him yet. He'll be questionable, but he's much better. Yeah, he's much better.
And Briscoe too?
Yeah, Briscoe is way better, so that's another one too we didn't mention.
Is that one of the biggest issues with Jamal, is him feeling confident and making cuts on that knee and doing the stuff that he normally needs to do?
Yeah, I think so, and just getting tackled, things like that. You know, it's not a deal where it's an ACL, you know, it's a little different, so it's gonna be way more stable than it would. So I don't think he's that concerned about that part, but anytime you get rolled up again, you know, you're probably always a little concerned, so he'll gain more confidence as he goes. And I told him the other night, just don't get rolled up, just don't get tackled. There you go, pretty easy.
Crazy season gonna start here with the schedule. You play Saturday, and then you don't play another Saturday until November.
That's right.
You feel got a hold of that now? Going down
You know-
10 days, a week, and then 10 days?
You know, last year, the first year, we didn't do very well in that category. And then last year, you know, we won both those games on the road on Tuesday night. This year, luckily, we have a home game on one of the Tuesdays. That'll be a big plus. But we felt like we got a much better plan. Obviously, our week will always start at game week, back up 7 days. And that's always a challenge with the schedule. But we will have an extra day of preparation for Texas State, which will be much needed because they're an outstanding team too. So a lot of football left to be played, but most importantly, a big one this week.
Coach, you really seem like you've got the players' attention the way you want them now.
I think so. I think, you know, you heard from these guys today, and I told them it's quite simple. You know, what we're doing is what we've been doing for the last 3 years. We're scoring about 35 points a game and playing awfully hard, causing turnovers. Last year, at this same time, we were like +5 or 6, and after 8 games, we were like number 6 in the nation in plus margin. And so, and we're practicing the same way, but maybe the passion part of it, of playing harder with relentless effort, getting more people to the ball, could be the difference. And so you're going to see an amped-up football team. The team is going to play much harder. That's been the hardest thing to figure out. Every year, every team is different. Regardless if you have 65 or 70% of the team back, every team's chemistry is different. This year, team chemistry, a little bit different to figure out. Learning to push some buttons, but hopefully I've about got those buttons figured out. So did push the right ones first last 3 weeks.
I feel like the big rest period after 3 losses, it just gave guys more time to kind of sit and dwell on that. It would have kind of have been easier for them to, or is this a good thing for them?
I think it was a good thing. I think we needed this time to get our bearings, just to step back and check our momentum, reevaluate, and then get ready for another surge. And so I thought it was coming at a very good time, regardless of the outcome of the last game. That's all coach speak. You know, as a staff, I think we've done a good job putting this last game behind us and moving forward. And I think they understand what's at stake. I think they understand they're very fortunate we have not played any conference games. And I think they know and they're very confident that we've got a lot of good football left ahead, and they're a really good team. All right, guys, thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Coach. Some good quotes in the summer.
Just a reminder for those of you